Hi, this is Isabel Litzler, the place to be to develop your skills and grow your potential. So today I want to share with you 3 tips on how to nail that upcoming job interview that you will be booked for, and what to do basically, how to perform. So the first thing is really material. You can't really feel confident and deliver a very good interview if you don't have the material part figured out. So what I mean by material part is make sure your sound is working, your camera, you're happy with the backdrop, which is what I have behind me, meaning that you pick a place within your where you live that you're comfortable with, that you could, when you have the interview, you could be set up on. So all that you should prepare at least the day before. Make sure computer works, sound works, and you figured out where you're going to hold the interview. The last thing you want is to be going around with your computer trying to find a nice spot in your house. So you want to have that figured out the day before where you're going to be set up. I think having a plain wall is okay if you don't have really anything in your flat other than that. As long as it's neutral and it looks nice, that's all you need really. So find a place in your apartment or in your house where you're happy and where you will have the interview. Make sure you're seated comfortably, that you have make sure you're comfortable so that when you have the interview you're not in a discomfort type of position. So I think by now people are used to working from home, so you probably have your office set up or your place in your flat where you feel comfortable. So that's all preparation from a material perspective. Now going to preparing the interview from more of a delivery, what are you going to say? And that's really about preparing your questions, but also your behavior, how you're going to be dressed up. Make sure that you have something nice to fit during the interview. And I know right now, again, with work from home, you see a lot of people a little bit more, I would say, casual. I always tell people for interviews, go a little bit a notch up, because that's going to make you a bit more above average. So if everyone is doing interviews wearing a black t-shirt with a black jacket, for example, then you want to wear something a bit different and a bit more dressy. So that makes a huge difference as well, is how you're dressed up. Now, in terms of questions preparation, that's always one where people are a bit confused. They don't know what kind of questions people will ask. As long as you know your background, so if you've gone through your resume and you know the high points of your career, all the recruiter wants to know is to learn a little bit about you. So I give you a few questions that you can prepare for your upcoming interviews and rehearse. So the first one is tell me about yourself, because tell me about yourself is really to understand your background in general, and don't make that super lengthy. You just want to go through the high points of your career until now, your current application. Number 2 is you want to prepare also the strength and weaknesses question. So most people don't know their strengths nor their weaknesses. This is something that you need to think through, what could be good examples based on the job. So if the job, for example, requires huge amount of planning and organizing, you don't want to say that you're not organized, for example. So just be careful that whatever you say is honest, but it's also not going to discredit you for that particular position. So think about strength and weaknesses, or weaknesses that are not going to hurt you for that particular position. So think about maybe a weakness that could be a strength as well. I know you've probably heard that before. It's very common, but it's true. I mean, for example, I'll use the weakness that I have is that I'm not patient, and it's a reality. But in actual matter of fact, when I say I'm not patient, if I said I'm not patient during an interview, it could all be always seen as a positive, where I can be that person who's always challenging people to go a bit faster. So it could be a negative depending on the position. So if I'm in a position where I need to work with people and get everyone's buy-in into the project, being impatient could be a bit difficult, because I would probably get annoyed in that position and it wouldn't be the right job for me. But if it's for a position where I need to lead, for example, well, being impatient is also the person who's going to push a little bit. So you just have to see, for, again, depending on the job, your strength could be a weakness and vice versa. So again, look at the position. What do you think is a good strength and weakness that you have for that particular position? that you're not lying, you're not saying, the wrong thing, but you're just trying to adapt to that particular company culture and to that particular job where that's what they want. One way to find out is to look at their website and see what type of things they value. And usually they will tell you in the careers page or even in the global website, they will showcase to you what kind of values they're looking for, what is big for them. So for example, it could be engagement or innovation and all these things. So based on that, you could adapt also your strength and weaknesses. The third question that keeps coming back a lot is examples of moments during your career and how you dealt with issues. So for example, recruiters will say, tell me about a time when you had a conflict, how did you solve it? They want to see if you have enough self-criticism or self-knowledge to be able to talk about it, but also to resolve the issue. So that's what they're looking at. So even if you have a difficulty, so that's why sometimes people say, well, this happened to me, I don't know how to say it, etc. It could be a gap, it could be a problem with a boss. It doesn't really matter what it is as long as you're able to take a distance from it and make sense out of it. So for example, you had a conflict with a boss at some point, but as long as you were able to find out solutions about it, then it doesn't really, it's not going to affect you. So if you say, well, I had an issue with my boss, a couple of years ago, we didn't agree on how the project was running. So, we went and had a coffee and I exposed my point, she exposed her point, and we realized that we were going in different directions. So we negotiated to get something that would be workable for both of us, and we made a plan out of it, in terms of when it would be delivered. So you see how you're able to actually engage with somebody, get their feedback or get their point of view and come up with a resolution. And what the recruiter is concerned with is, are you going to be someone who can take care of themselves? You're not going to run to somebody to solve your issues. And are you going to find solutions? So you're not just complaining about things, but you're actually resolving things. So those are the type of behavioral questions that recruiters will want to know. That could be the case in a further step during the process. So at the beginning, when you have the live interview online, maybe the first time that you have this live interview is just 5 minutes, quick presentation, and all these questions will come maybe in other interviews. But I'm trying to give you what is basically the target of these interviews. Finally, rehearse, rehearse, rehearse. You're never prepared enough. And this is something that I have as a feedback for all my clients pretty much when they do mock interviews with me, is lack of preparation and rehearsal. So when you do something, 5 times, 6 times, 10 times, you're going to be very good at it. So at the beginning, you're probably going to sound very hesitant, lack of confidence. You're going to be sweating maybe, you're going to be stuttering. But that's because you're not preparing yourself for interviews. You only do it when you have the date and time with the recruiter. So you need to prepare. You need to have your phone and, tape yourself. See what you see on camera. Are you sweating? Are you playing with a piece of jewelry? Are you scratching your head? All that will basically be real when you see yourself on camera. So you can't find that out until you try and you fix things. So maybe the first times that you do it, you will find that you do have this thing of scratching your head. And then once you're aware of it, you'll say, okay, next time I will stop scratching my head. Sometimes you may need the help of somebody else. In giving you feedback, in helping you get better at interviewing. And this is where I come into play, where, we could look at your particular situation and maybe how you manage your interviews. Or sometimes people keep failing their interviews, and that's also something that needs to be looked at a bit closer. Maybe there's something you say or you do. So I would highly recommend, if the interview exercise is complicated for you, to try to find out what you could do better and improve, basically, because it still is the way to get hired now. There's no other way than to actually have an interview and you're selected. based on that. So you can't afford, so to say, to fail your interviews. So I hope this was helpful. As usual, feel free to comment, share, and the video, and tell me your opinion. You know, do you have complexities around interviews? Are you struggling with them? Thank you. I'll talk to you soon.